Okay, so here I am at a place called Sunwatch. Ironically, I chuckle at the beginning because we live not too far from railroad tracks at home in Rochester, New York, and here I am in suburban Dayton, Ohio, and there's a train going by right in the background. I'm at a site that is being referred to by modern times as Sunwatch, and it's actually on the list of National Historic records or whatever. It's an Indian site where there was Native Americans that lived here around 1200 AD. They figure for about a 20-year time span, and they're not really 100% certain why they left, but they figure the ground was starting to have some issues with farming in that very particular area and everything. Now looking upward, standing a little bit off to one side of center, you can see it's not a very large place at all. There's this nice big large pillar area there that I'll get back to. That's the Visitors Museum building in the background. Circling around, there's trees here and several huts. It looks like from the original, from the creation of the stuff that's in the background, that's in the Visitors Museum building, it looks like there was about 20 huts originally. And as I go inside, first I'll look at one of the signs here. It says residential life. You are now in a residential area of reconstructed homes. Why do you suppose the doors are so low? Step carefully into one of the reconstructed homes. Notice how dark it is inside. Sit on a bench and try to imagine what life would be like living here with your family of 6 to 8. Would you have much privacy? In the center, the hearth provided heat and light and was used for cooking. Would you want to live here in the winter? Remember, this is suburban Dayton, Ohio. Of course, they had a lot of activity that happened out in the common areas here, but as we step inside, yes, the doorway itself comes up to about my chest, so I have to duck down to come in. It's much darker inside. These are all reconstructed, but you see that there's several wooden areas where they probably slept and sat on and whatnot. There's openings on a couple of ends. I can only assume that they have a reason why they built them that way, and obviously light would be the obvious that comes to my mind. Everything's all made with branches. Looks like they've got basically one bench all the way around, and you could fit more than one person next to each other widthwise on them, and lengthwise they actually go pretty good distance. I'd say that's a better part of 20. The room's probably 20 feet by 20 feet. They've got various assorted things like corn and whatnot, as you can see, hanging. Some animal skins on the wall. A couple of gourds there off of one pillar. Fire pit in the center right here. It's amazing. I don't notice it as much because I'm using the video now, but when I walked into the first one that I walked into a little while ago, I could definitely feel a difference with the energy. The ground that's here is supposedly about 12 inches higher than it was at that point in time, and so things were very nicely preserved. Once they found that there was something to dig down to, the archaeologists found all kinds of things about 12 inches down. But even with that being the case, there was a very definite energy that I felt of the reverence that belonged to the people who lived at that time here. And in fact, I think that might have been in one of the common house structures, like what they believe was a men's hut. This one was a family hut. Now I'm circling from one to the next. They believe that this was all matrilineal, being that the new husbands would move in the area where his wife and their family already lived. There's another hut. Again, you see the opening on one end. As a reference, I'm in Dayton, Ohio. It's October, what is today's date? 6th. And it's 3:30 in the afternoon Eastern Time. You can't quite see the sun because of where I'm standing, but I'm facing roughly southward right now. So as I swing around, this would obviously be towards the east then. It's interesting, this particular one, they've got this open area right there as the hut curves around. In the previous one, they squared it off and had the benches more all the way into the corners. But again, at the widest area, you could lay down either lengthwise or widthwise on this particular one. You've got that pillar right there that makes for an interesting combination, but on this one you could lay lengthwise. You could probably get two different people, head to toe kind of thing in there lengthwise, but it's not much wider than what one person would want for widthwise on that combination. So that one might have held 8 to 10 people. This one looks a lot more like it could hold maybe 6 to 8 kind of thing or something, without counting very precisely on it. And again, the various hangings. They used the bark here. Looked like leather, but as I come up closer, it's actually bark to bond the various parts together. Coming out into this area, circling down through around the circle. We no longer hear the sound of the train. The other irony that I noticed is it's actually right up the street from one of the transmitter sites that the stations that I'm contracting to is going to be locating at. I'm not sure offhand which of the towers it is, but if you look in the background in the sky, I can see 4 different broadcast towers in this area here, and there's actually quite a few more, but the trees are just, I'm in the wrong position and the trees are blocking it. So this is as they've come across some of the areas as it's been excavated but not recreated, basically. They find the various posts in the places, and they've extrapolated what the information says that those posts do. This is one that, as you can see from the sign, it says a lot of posts here for one house. Could this have been several houses or rebuilding of one house during the occupation of the village? One of the reasons why apparently they left was in an area at the northern end of the village, which again looks to be up around that area. There was apparently a fire that destroyed some of the houses. Facing back to the south again and looking back again at this structure, maybe they had previous fires. It's not really clear. Could this have been several houses or what? You come around, and each of the other places where there's the branches sticking up are places where they've done other excavation, and as they start clearing the basic stuff away, they start to find what they determine is darker colored soil that corresponds to things like the original posts that were there rotting and creating more fertile areas in little patches in the soil that apparently a trained archaeologist will start to recognize as being additional areas of interest, basically. And from them, that's where they've eventually determined they were things such as walking into this house. It says it's the big house, largest structure in the village, probably served as a council house or gathering place for celebrations such as the green corn ceremony. And of course they're guesstimating on the name of that. There were trash pits that were nearby, and you can see other combinations throughout. Again, notice the short roof. Come up to the doorway. The doorway is closer to 7 feet. There's a little bit of a step down here. There is the little side area. Again, more benches and everything. Very common construction, even though they believe this was probably more of some kind of a common area. Fire pit. They look all amazingly similar. Go figure. Walking onward, we go onward to see, there's another couple broadcast towers that I wasn't able to see from the previous direction. Okay, yes, I'm the radio geek, so I'll show you the broadcast towers. As we come back, and there's another area here where there's posts all the way around. There must be some kind of a tour that they can do when there's actually any kind of people around, because this is very unpopulated today. There's only 2 staff people here, and I believe they're volunteers. This one's got all the pillars all the way around. They believe this was the men's lodge. Post holes are twice as large as those in the residential houses. They say that the posts were red cedar, which is, of course, an aromatic wood they believe was used for rituals. Huh. They believe it was a men's lodge, men's activities done here because of the abundance of tool debris. Intriguing. Now on this side here, stopping and looking at this sign, burial sites. Wow. Average height for women was about 5 feet 2 inches. Men were about 5 feet 4 inches. As I'm 48 years old, I had to think about it. It says here that few adults at that time lived past the age of 45.